recording real quick. Let me pull up my screen real quick. This session was mainly for Ginger, and whoever else wanted to, you know, view view the session. But
Well, my man, I left my job and now I've got all the time in the world to focus on trading. I'd love to be good at it.
glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it. So, Ginger, you here? You can hear? All right. Can you see? Okay. I'm gonna first start off with going over what the market sentiment was and how you should be trading when you know the market sentiment, right? So, I mean, last year, as you know, you were here, you witnessed, or it might have been a year and a half ago, where we had a very bullish market where it was pretty easy to make money. Why? Because everybody knew the sentiment was bullish. I don't know if you remember me mentioning a couple weeks ago, I wanted to say when we were down here, up till here, I was like, SPY needs to be above what? The 435 and 440 area in order to become bullish again, right?
What are we looking at? What are we?
We are
Sorry.
currently have the SPY up here. So this is the
Oh,
SPY.
I can't see it. What am
Oh,
I?
are you guys able to? So click my name and then click watch stream.
Okay, I got you. I see
Yeah,
it now.
there we go. Okay.
Did you just start again? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no problem, no problem. So originally 2 weeks ago, or I wanted to say, yeah, 2, 3 weeks ago when we were teeter-tottering around on the downtrend over here, everyone was wondering what would be the case scenario for SPY to be bullish, and I had stated that it was going to be the 435 to 450, I mean 440 area. The reason being is, if we go take a look at the SPY monthly chart here, okay? This is something that I was really trying to mention for everybody to pay attention to. Such a clean trend right up on the EMA for the SPY, right? We can see that that trend was broken. Okay, it's being a retracement. That is perfectly something normal in a market where something is, you know, continuously going up. Now, the thing was, when SPY pulled back, people failed to look at the bigger picture where we had a clear EMA right here at that what area? 410, 411 area, right? And as you can see, oops, did not mean to move that. Let's put that back in its place. And as you can see, we pretty much bounced very clearly off of that trend. And it's much easier to see this in hindsight, of course. So the thing was, when we were bouncing off of here, how would we be able to know that the SPY was going to become bullish again? Well, that's where that 435, 440 area came into key, was one, because it would be breaking the downtrend over here, right? We can see that SPY has, well, actually, no, this wouldn't correspond with that area exactly, but there's a couple of ways that you could have been watching for SPY to become bullish. Now, obviously, if you looked at the monthly, you could have picked a entry off of that bottom on the EMA. That would have been super risky because at that time we were in a clear downtrend. Unless you had waited for the base establishment that we had. Um,
A clear downtrend on the daily, right?
on the daily and the monthly as well, you know, or technically a pullback, quote unquote, on the monthly, right? This isn't considered a, well, you could say it's a downtrend in a way. This two candles were a downtrend, but like I wouldn't consider that a downtrend. I would consider it a break of the uptrend before a pullback. You know, I wouldn't consider it a downtrend on the monthly. On the daily though, yes, I would consider it a downtrend because we did establish a downtrend, right? Now, what you could have done is if you saw the base establishment and you wanted to enter on confirmation, you could have either waited for the EMA trend break up or you could have waited for the downtrend break up as well, which would have been a little bit risky area, but it was 430, right? And I stated full confirmation for SPY going back to bullish is going to be above that 435, 440 area where that EMA 200 on the daily was sitting at, right? So even if you waited till then, you still would have had a pretty decent entry and you still would have gotten pretty good returns as well. I mean, I'm not looking at my indicators at all. This is telling you without looking at the indicators. This is plainly using whatever is on the screen on the chart, right? You could have entered at that 440 area break of those EMA trend. Sorry, of the EMA 200, right? And you would have gotten a pretty decent return. Now, if we take into consideration the um, indicators as well with it, well, base establishment perfectly happening over here. We're maintaining this area, right? This would be a supply zone. You could say that this was a little bit break of it, but I mean we wicked up pretty hard over here. I don't remember what happened on that day. Something must have happened. But either way, I got confirmation on my MACD over here, which is when we broke that EMA 8 upwards, right? We had bounced up. We hadn't cleared the downtrend break yet, but then once that candle closed, you had confirmation on the MACD that it converged. You also had that sharp increase on the RSI. Now, for my RSI, I had explained this in previous videos. When the yellow line shoots up above the red line, it's indicating a bullish move coming, right? When the yellow line shoots below the red line, it's indicating a bearish move coming, which you can see corresponding with the other RSI that I have a little bit and with the MACD a little bit, right? So you had one, the trend break. Both EMAs are broken up. You have the EMA 8, EMA 20, both broken up here with the trend break, downtrend break. So that's three things right there. Plus you get the MACD. Plus you're having very strong buy volume right here. As you can see in the past couple of days, the volume was around here, and you have a strong, more than average for the last couple of days volume right there. And then you also see this, and you can also see that the RSI. So one, two, three, four, five, six, about seven things pointing upwards, right? Clear as day that SPY is going to go bullish if it breaks here, and which it did, obviously, right?
Why do
So
you have different RSIs? I'm sorry.
So I have two RSIs, one that I use for scalping, and one that kind of uses for it's a little bit combination. Let me double check what it was called. I don't remember what it was called exactly when I set these up. Yeah, so one of them was for scalping, which actually ended up working pretty decently on the larger time frames as well. I had originally created this one for scalping only, but it turned out to be really good for long term as well. So they're both a little bit different. It kind of helps me get a little bit more accurate read on RSI. So I like using both personally. Now, the key thing for SPY was that I was trying to point out to you, Ginger, last week is that clear uptrend, right? On the EMA 9 over here, or EMA 8, I forget which one this is, the white line that I have over here. I think it's the 8. But the EMA we can see is being written up, right? So what's the market sentiment? Market sentiment is bullish. So whenever you're going to have intraday pullbacks, and whenever you're going to have pullbacks on your larger or smaller time frames, you have to realize and take into consideration what the sentiment is, right? The sentiment is what? It's bullish. So on Friday, and Friday was a little bit tougher of a day, I would say. I did see plenty of people not do well on Fridays, but let's go over Friday's trade. Um, let's take a look. So, as we can see, SPY did pull back, right? This is on the 15-minute chart. We've got your 200 EMA right here on your 15-minute chart. Uh, anything that you see in this, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a little red highlight here. That's pre-market, and then the blue highlight is going to be your post-market, right? Your after hours. So let's zoom in a little bit to it so we can see it a little bit clearer for that day. Okay, SPY broke down. We take a look at the larger time frames. There was going to be a support right here, the 448.43 support, which is also going to be one of your Fibonacci levels. SPY hit that, right? We see that, okay, SPY is starting to bounce up slowly, and as you can see, it's creating higher lows, right? Starting to establish kind of a base consolidating upwards. Now, this is where I think, Ginger, you guys were trying to just, load the puts up, but there was no reason to. I can't remember what level I gave because the level is switched now. Um, Obviously, since the charts have been updated. I wanted to say, I think it was the four. What was it? The 438. Ginger, do you remember?
Say it was
Remember the level I gave like five
449.30.
times? 449.30. Okay. Yeah, I can see
No,
why it was.
no,
Or-
no. It was go to
Hmm.
450.30.
Okay, so were we doing that around this time? I didn't like this is all informal by the way right now, so this wasn't like
Yeah.
planned
So
or anything.
you see the big wick
Yes,
before the breakout.
yes, 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 yes. Okay, and I
Yeah,
said
that's
enter
where
calls
it was.
around here. Okay. Um, Let me just double check my messages to see when it would turn bearish is what I was saying. Yeah, okay. 450.31. If 450.31 had broken, I was not going to turn bearish. And at that time, let's see, 450.31. Right, okay. So both of the EMAs were around this area. We had broken up. We had confirmation on here. We had confirmation a little bit ago on the RSI, so you have to take that into consideration. Um, then what else did we have? Yeah, we broke out of the channel actually. So there was a small channel right here, right? We see that the trend is establishing, and we see that it's getting a little bit tighter here as it gets to the MA. The EMA, sorry. And then once we break out of that, we can see clear uptrend coming right here associated with the MACD, your RSIs. So that's why I was trying to tell you guys that overall the trend was bullish still on the market, right? So there was no reason to expect a further downside break until you get confirmation of that, right? You see that slowly we were creating the higher lows, but we did not break the channel downwards. If the channel had broken downwards, then yes, I agree. We would end up trying puts most likely. But it was midday too, so it would have been a little bit risky because the thing was we could have pulled back till here and then ultimately most likely tested the EMA 200 or the EMA sorry, yeah, the EMA 200 or this trend line here or this support here, but that didn't end up happening, and so all the signs were pointing towards bullish, um, and there was no reason that you should have been in puts for that. Now, my assumption was that we would have tested for new high of day by the end of day, but we didn't get that. I think that ended up trying to happen end of day, but we didn't get there, so I didn't get that. But either way, if you had entered the calls here, I think they ended up hitting like 90% or something like that, because they were same days for Friday, so they moved pretty well. And then, Ginger, that's why I keep reminding you it's very important to keep an eye on the rest of the trends. Do you see SPY right here on the dashboard, right? The
Yeah.
only thing that's bearish for SPY at the moment is going to be your daily, and it's going to be your 1 minute. That's a lot of time frames indicating that it's bullish, right? Your current sentiment is also bullish at the moment, as you can see it written right here. So it's very, very important to keep in mind, what's going on with the market overall while you're intraday trading. And obviously Fridays, more volatile. You got to be extra careful on Fridays. But I looked over the list that you had sent of the mistakes that you had made, and yeah, man, you definitely gotta try not to make the same mistakes over and over again, you know?
For sure.
You've seen it happen many times. Uh, you just can't keep doing it, man. Like that's really all I can say at this point, is that you really just got to keep everything in mind. Now what you can do is try to make your life simpler. Don't have too many indicators on if you don't know how to use them all. You don't need this many. The reason I have this many is because I have gotten used to and I have figured out how to use this many. It takes time. It takes experience. Um, Originally when I started, it had way less. I had way less indicators. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, don't do what I did either. Like I said, I lost a lot of my peak account, 25% of that,
Right.
and I've been sad about it. I haven't even bothered to trade in like 2 months, and that's not okay either. I think.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like I treat them as very expensive lessons is what I like to call them. But the thing is like everyone, man, like it's just part of being human. You end up having emotion. It's something that you can't have a full lockdown on, and those people that do have a full lockdown on it, I mean, I applaud them. It's a pretty difficult thing to do. So the fact that, um, we're human, you have to really take into consideration your emotion doesn't cloud your judgment. Especially on very risky days like Friday. Like, Fridays typically you don't want to be going your normal size. I mean, the 0 day contracts, you're going to end up having super large movements. You're going to have to adjust your risk tolerance every Friday, decrease your size, be a little bit more patient sometimes, or be a little bit more strict sometimes. It just all really depends. But the thing is, as humans, we love immediate gratification, right? Who doesn't? I mean, who doesn't want to make like a shit ton of money from putting a small amount in? But let's be realistic. You're better off just trying to keep do that at the lottery. It's the same thing essentially. You're gonna keep trying to put a large amount of money. That's all your money, your entire account. Say you have a $2,000 account. You put that all in there, and the trade doesn't go your way. Well, what are you gonna be at? Very low amount, right? Your entire account's gone. So you could have spent that $2,000 on lottery tickets and maybe had a better chance at that. The thing is, patience is just so key in this game. Yes, it takes time. No one's gonna sit here. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys it's easy. It's not, and you can't really do expect to make a huge amount of money in one day. It just doesn't work like that, you know. Some people do get lucky, and I mean, honestly, like I would attribute it to luck a lot of the times because the thing is, people who are full porting are people who are essentially just gambling. You know, you have things to help you make your ability to make money easier and more in your favor in a sense, right? So we got to use them. And that's how you actually end up, you know, being successful in the market. And I've told Ginger this many times. The market makers aren't the ones who are your enemies. The chart isn't your enemy. The chart's your best friend. The person who you have to fight the most and learn to master is yourself. This really is a game in mastering yourself. Is the way that I personally look at it. You know. So currently looking at SPY. I mean, we did close pretty well. We are still bullish. I do think we may come up here and maybe channel for a little bit. Just depends how Monday opens up. But my expectation for next week was a channel and then break out for further continuation up. Let the RSI and stuff cool off a little bit. But we will have to obviously see based off of what's going on Monday and next week and news and whatnot. But a couple of things. I wanted to go over a couple of tickers, but before I do that, is there anything you guys want me to go over, take a look at, or any questions, you know, from either of you guys? Anybody who's here at least?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's up,
I want to
Max?
see your opinion on the weekly on airlines AAL specifically.
Airlines, okay. Let me give you my list before we start. I don't usually play airlines. I don't usually play cruise lines. I usually do not play any bio health
I want
companies.
your perspective on a pure charts
Okay,
perspective,
pure
nothing
charts
else.
perspective, I can give you that. I don't play these because they're highly influential on news and stuff like that. I like sticking to,
I know
you know, simple things.
they get heavily influenced by like swings in oil and other things
Yes.
happening, world events and
Okay.
factors that we cannot predict.
So, airlines are in a downtrend at the moment. Let's make sure we got that weekly downtrend charted so at least we can, whoops, did not mean to do that.
I just
And I mean, I didn't chart a lot of things because I want you guys to see how I'm charting stuff too. You know, this is going to be a little bit of education for you. So one, there's
absolutely.
a trend line there. Now I'm going to take the peak from this trend line to kind of find that. Okay, we'll encompass two of these peaks. And then let's go into the daily chart to make it a little bit cleaner and make sure that the peaks are being touched correctly. So let's
I think
see.
it's like there's no way to know when it's going to be over, but
This one
um,
needs to be
looks
adjusted.
like we can recognize some things emerging in coming weeks on airlines, like a pattern, if not a rejection or something.
Okay. I am going to say, but just looking at the daily and the weekly so far, the downtrend, I really want to see airlines push and hold above, I would say 19.10, at least for AAL. And the whole reason I say that is because, as we can see, it doesn't really respect the EMA too well, right? And it's in that clear downtrend. If we wait for the larger downtrend to be broken, I'm pretty sure that that MACD is going to converge, and I'm pretty sure that this RSI and is going to get a sharp shoot upwards. Now, we do see that the yellow line has crossed through the red line, but it's a very, I wouldn't say it's a clean cross. So that's why I would like to wait a little bit more to see if the rest of the indicators align up as well. Yeah, probably 19.10-ish. I would see, yeah, 19.10. If you want to be super safe, you can wait for
Yeah,
19 point like 79-ish. Otherwise,
that
I would
sounds
just wait it
rational.
out. Yeah, I don't see anything else for the upside on it. But if you do see the downside, you could get a nice rejection to somewhere probably I would say at least 15-ish levels. So you could watch the top of that channel. I would watch the top of that channel for either a rejection or a breakout for a scalp. I wouldn't go long on it. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as a trader.
Yeah, just
Um,
as like a chart perspective, I would like Z has been saying a long time, pick up, airlines, hold airlines,
right,
and pick up things, hold them. And like I've been
right.
thinking for a while, I need to stop being so lottery style playing and just
Hmm.
pick up something, hold it, and maybe sell some share, some common.
Yeah, I mean, depends what you're looking at it as. I mean, if you're looking at it as an investor for 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, whatever it may be, it's not a bad idea to start dollar cost averaging and picking up shares. I mean,
Right.
let's see where
I was
airlines are in
thinking
the.
covered calls or covered puts and things like that.
Yeah. Covered calls, covered puts, I have never done. I'm not gonna lie to you, never done them. That's more up Z's alley and more up Harmony's alley. I'll be that guy that sticks with the normal naked scalps and options. But besides that, yeah, airlines are in a small term downtrend. You want full confirmation? I would wait for that weekly 200. If you want to go long in options, I would say you would
Oh
either
yeah,
wait
yeah, that's
for you'd either wait for this area, your 2396 or your 2609 if you want to be completely safe. Because usually when the airlines, I'm looking at
yeah,
their
that's really nice.
I'm looking at how they respect the weekly 200 EMA, and they respect it decently well. I mean, when it breaks either way, up or down, there's a decent move that is made, right? Well, only time would be here, but you could see that it didn't correspond that well with the other indicators. But here, you see that MACD is setting up for a squeeze. It really looks like it wants to squeeze. Um, and if it can get that squeeze, I'm going to expect it to at least test that 200 EMA for the weekly. But the real factor will be if it breaks that. If airlines break that, then yeah, for sure, you're going to see airlines fly. But I mean, in the long term, investors' perspective, airlines are always going to be there. They're not going anywhere, you know. So, not a bad thing to invest into if that's what you believe in. But you guys know me, I'm not really an investor. Well, I am for 10 plus years, so the way that I look at things is if I like something, I'll buy it long term. I'll dollar cost average. If something happens within the next year, it doesn't really matter to me because I'm 10 plus years down the line. So it's not a big deal to me. That's just how I look at it.
Okay.
But anything
If
else? Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, if we find, say I find something that I think might be interesting, because like I said, like the news, because you say that, it's always important to have a catalyst, right? That always helps to make these things move, right? So
Right.
like, if it's before, market open and everything, can I like send you a ticker, just have you look at it, tell me what you think about it?
Yeah, so here's what I mean by catalyst. When I refer to a catalyst, I'm referring to it as another indicator, right? A catalyst is only another indicator that will help you confirm whatever your currently sentiment is, right? I'm not gonna ever use a catalyst as my only indicator, excuse me, for picking whatever direction it's gonna go in, right? Why? Because things like that are pretty risky. Whenever you get news on certain things, I mean, sometimes you may get great news, and the thing is, things end up booming. Things will react to that news. You'll see huge reactions to that news. And the thing is, if you get caught in one of those, the risk is just too high. Unless you catch the bottom, then like catching one of those is essentially chasing in a sense. For small accounts and for the average person, it's not something that's recommended. Now, obviously, if you have a larger account, if you made profits for the day, you have some profit to risk, and you want to risk some, then yeah, go ahead. But otherwise, besides that, just use a catalyst like news, or in terms of if you're playing a biomedical stock, results from a trial or something like that can be considered a catalyst, a negative or a good catalyst, or a positive catalyst. Sorry, you could use those, but just use it as an indicator, in my opinion, to add onto your sentiment.
So what's most important for us is to really focus on market sentiment, look at the charts, and
Chart. Market sentiment, chart.
and
Only two
wait for
things you need.
confirmation only.
And confirmations only. You want it simple as possible. You want to keep it as simple as possible. Patience, wait for your entries, let the trades come to you, don't chase.
So
Never chase.
how like I've heard about this thing called like spinning tops or hammers and that those can
Okay.
help with it.
Those are going to be more so of your candlestick patterns, right? Now, here's my theory on when you start using too much stuff, right? I mean, like there's many different strategies. Some people just like to use EMAs and supply and demand zones. Some people just like to use Bollinger Bands. Some people simply use just the MACD and RSI. But the thing is, when you start adding too much stuff into it, personally, from what I've seen, is it starts to cloud people's judgments. And this is for beginners, okay? I'm talking about beginners and even intermediates. That's something that I want to say takes 5 plus maybe years, 10,000 plus hours of experience to take into account how those work in addition to all the indicators you are using. Unless you are using simply, a simple strategy where you're focusing on candlestick patterns in addition to maybe two or three other things, right? But if you have like 8 different things and you want to add that in there as well, it's too much in my opinion.
I think
Uh,
that's really what I meant to say here is because, honestly, these candlesticks are more than a little confusing to me.
Candlestick patterns I don't use. I don't use at all. The only candlestick patterns that I take a look at is if something has more of a bullish candle, how large the wicks are, if it's a doji candle, on the larger time frame, if we're having a doji candle making market sentiment a little mixed or anything, I may look at stuff like that. But I personally use chart patterns more so than I use candlestick patterns. Why? Because I feel like chart stick patterns encompass the bigger picture and larger picture. Your candlestick patterns, yeah, they can be great in larger time frames, but in my opinion, the only like really important ones you need to know are going to be like your basics, like your dojis and stuff like that. And knowing, where it's going to be a bullish hammer or if it's going to be a bearish hammer. Those two I would suggest, yeah, maybe those are good. Inside bar is another good one. I don't use it personally. But again, these are going to be more so helpful for people who are trying to, I guess, snipe entries, snipe bottom entries, or snipe exits on the top. Trying to figure out what the price action is at that current time. Whereas I'm trying to look for what the larger move is going to be.
So you're still more focused on, like, inverse tops or triple bottoms, triple tops, things like that.
Um, I will consider those on larger time frames when we're trying to dictate a spot where, market sentiment isn't clear. I will consider those, but if market sentiment's clear, I just stick to, what I have up here. I don't add anything else. This is everything you see on my screen is exactly how I use it to trade.
Hmm.
There is
Okay.
nothing I have different than what I'm showing you at the moment. So I usually have this for 4 charts up on each screen, right? So I have one which I'm monitoring the SPY. I'm going to be monitoring QQQ. I'm going to be monitoring the VIX to see how um, market volatility is, and then I'm going to monitor Tesla because it has a big weight on SPY. Then on my other screens, I'm going to have Apple. I'm going to have Microsoft. I'm going to have Amazon, and I'm going to switch around between either AMD or Nvidia. On my other screen, I'll have Facebook, and then I'll have some other things that I'm watching just to see how it's going. And then that's how I dictate how the market's going to move in terms of SPY, in addition to whatever else I have on this chart. Whatever else I see on this chart. Now, you do not need to do that. That's just how I do it. Also, because I have a bunch of, alerts set for entries on spots where I want to be entering spots. That's what I do. And obviously, because I'm trying to alert for you guys and see other setups and try to find good setups like that. But for you guys, highly recommend keep it simple. Really, you don't need to overcomplicate it. It does not need to be overcomplicated. Keep it simple. Even if you want, watch 2 tickers. Maybe even one. If it's gonna be one ticker, master that ticker, man. I know a couple people that only play Facebook. There's one person that I know that literally only plays Facebook, and they're so damn good at it because that's the only damn chart that they play and that they know very, very well, right? And I
So you
mean,
can really just play the same ticker day in and day out.
yeah, you can if you really want to. Yeah, if it's volatile enough and it's got good, clean movements. Actually, Facebook had a really nice breakup here. I don't know why I didn't buy that. That's very nice breakup right here. This, especially right here. Very good downtrend break, good confirmation. Facebook might actually cup here and try to create a handle possibly and come back here and then go, but we shall see. Or depending on how the market is, I mean, we might just bull run from here. But we gotta let the RSI cool off a little bit. Potentially. That's just one indicator showing slowing down. Otherwise, there's no other indicator showing slowing down at the moment besides maybe hitting the resistance. But otherwise, still in a nice uptrend. Nice EMA ride. Yeah, I wouldn't enter Facebook puts unless it breaks like 213 area. 213, 212 area.
Okay. So for us with small accounts, just keep it simple. Pick up your
Keep it
scalp.
simple. Dala honestly explained it very well. He aims for a couple of trades a day. You really don't need to take a lot of trades a day. If you get, it's all it takes is one good trade, right? I keep a rule for when I had a small account, 3 trades a day. Okay, trades a day. If my first trade doesn't go well, try again on my second one. Second one doesn't go well, try again on my third one. Third one, if it goes my way, okay, there you go. Then I may continue or may not continue for the day, may call it a day there. Now, if I do bad on my third one as well, then I call it a day. I don't try to go and continue trading. I wait for another day. Um, and even if your first trade goes well, you can call it a day there, man. I mean, like if it makes enough, if it hits your goal for the day, 1 to 2% on your portfolio, maybe even 3% on your portfolio, whatever your goal is. I mean, it's always best to walk away up. That's the hardest part that a lot of people have is that they see that, all right, I'm up $500 for the day, right? Oh, maybe if I put it into this trade, I'll make a little bit more for the day. Why not? People get greedy, right? That's where your rules come very, very, very they become very important. And that's where your discipline needs to be is okay, yeah, I want to risk some of my profits for the day, but let's be safe about it. Let's risk only say I made $500. All right, I'll risk $100 only. If I lose $100 on the trade, I'm going to exit the trade. I'm just going to take the loss, walk away for the day, right? That's how you manage your risk, and that's how you properly do that. If you want to do that, make sure you do it the right way. You know, you don't want to give away all your profits for the day. You want to risk a little bit of your profits to see if you can gain a little bit more. And if you can, great. If you don't, you lose that $100. All right, you still walk away with $400. You know, so that's where it comes very in handy for making sure that your discipline is in check and that you're following your rules. Um, because say you entered the trade and it doesn't go your way, you keep averaging down, you don't respect stuff. Now you're down $200 for the day, unrealized. You keep doing the same thing. Before you know it, all your $500 for the day are gone, and then you end up the day being red, simply off of one bad mistake, one bad trade. So, Ginger, your
Well,
mic is doing all sorts of things.
shit, my bad. 1 second. Steady, do you have
There we
any
go.
advice for people trading mobile?
I trade mobile. I don't trade on my computer. I trade mobile. Everything I do happens on my phone. Weeble. Weeble and TOS on my phone.
TOS on
Sorry?
TOS on your phone?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
Think or
what
swim on the phone, very, very easy.
indicators you use?
Oh, charting. No, no, no. Charting is done on my computer always. Now I may look at the chart on my phone if I'm not at home, but otherwise, always on the computer. Reason being, you'll be able to see the bigger picture. Much easier to, if I want to get to this supply zone drawing stuff, it's more convenience. I mean, you can chart on the phone. I've done it a couple times where I'm just sitting in the car charting on the phone, but it just depends on what you're using to chart. If it's trading view, then it's not terrible, but I would always prefer to do it on the PC just because it's much easier to see things. Just much easier to like, maneuver around, do convenience sake, for convenience
Okay,
sake.
so if you don't have access to that,
Hmm.
you're strictly mobile.
Okay.
What would you suggest?
Hmm. Now that's difficult. If you're strictly mobile, would you have do you no tablets, anything like that?
Right.
Okay. That makes it a lot more difficult. Reason being is it's hard for you to monitor what's going on at the same time as monitoring your trade, right? So what you can do is you could have the chart up and try not to do scalps that are same day trades because it's going to be hard for you to pay attention to the chart at the same time as watching your contract because it'll be moving pretty fast. I would suggest if you're taking scalps, make sure you take the ones that are weeklies. That way, at least you're not like missing something in between you switching through looking at your contract and the chart.
Right.
But if you get TradingView, it's not bad on the phone at all. TradingView is actually pretty decent on the phone. They have a very nice UI, very nice system, and then especially on the phone, you're able to zoom in. You're still able to do charting on the phone. It's just not as convenient.
Right. Well, I use Webull, so
Weeble's not terrible for charting. I haven't used it in like 2+ years for charting, so I don't know how it looks now. I mean, as long as you're able to see what's going on and able to chart, it just comes down to preference, honestly.
It's okay now. It's pretty okay.
Weeble's okay. Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty okay.
I've just gotten so used to trading view that this is what makes it easy for me. It's simple. It's already set up. I spent a lot of time setting this up, so when I go to Webull and it's like, oh crap, what is this? You know.
But you everything you got on TradingView, like Thinkorswim has too, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. A lot of the biggest difference between TradingView and TOS is just going to be, I guess, the customizability of it and like the ability to. Actually, I think you can use custom scripts in Thinkorswim as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just custom.
again, just preference, man. It's just preference. I just ended up being introduced to TradingView before I saw Thinkorswim. And I just ended up liking it.
So in this, sorry,
Go ahead, go ahead.
you,
No.
Harmony talks a lot about like price action, but I just don't like. I don't quite
Okay.
get that. Like, how
Price
does that work
action
exactly?
essentially means how the market is moving, right? So, for example, price action typically in general during lunchtime is known to be slow, right? You'll hear many times people like me, Harmony, especially myself. I make the joke that it's like watching paint dry right now. It just means that like price action is weak. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening in the market right now. So let's see where there were plenty of days last year where it was just like very crappy. The market was literally sitting and lack of volume, you could say. Now, when price action is good, that means there's good, clear movement. Like right here, I would say price action, really good, clear movement on the market, good volume on the market, good ability for a pump here. Whereas people can say in this period right here, in this 1 hour, people can say price action sucked. And this 1 hour might have been, oh, that was towards the end of the day. But usually in
Oh, that's like
lunchtime,
spy.
yeah, like okay, let's take a look at SPY on Friday lunch. Usually it's lunchtime that price action sucks. Even here, you take a look here on SPY on my screen right here, you see that we're essentially just consolidating. I guess price action, you could also say that when price action is slow, it's another way of saying it's consolidating.
But how do you like gauge,
Volume movement on the market. It's very simple. Movement on the market. Do you see how for this 1 hour period, 1.5 hour period, the market barely moved? It stayed within a very tight range, which is like not even a full dollar range, right? So price action was very weak. Nothing was happening. Boom. Price action becomes strong again because what happened? The market broke out of that small trend, stopped consolidating. Each candle is making a move higher, right? Whereas each candle here is consolidating. We're seeing more movement on the MACD. We're seeing the more movement on the RSI a little bit, I guess you could say here, but it's not standstill, right? So that means price action is good. Price action essentially means that like the market's moving, you know. You're referring more to how the market is moving, for a better sake of words.
Okay. Also, how to play price action because I remember one Harmony saying before, why are you taking a trade off of something instead of price action? God, I can't remember exactly what he said. It was a while ago.
Hmm. Hard for me to answer that because I don't know the context of it.
Okay, okay, understand.
You
So
know.
probably didn't get that one, huh?
Well, I mean, okay. Let's see in the broader picture, right? You see for the day. So this marks the opening of the day. This marks the end of the day, right? We
Okay.
see over the day, SPY overall made an upward move, and the move was what from like $436 to $443. That's a pretty good move, pretty decent range, and pretty clear trend upwards. So overall for the day, what can you say about price action?
Bullish for sure.
Price action was good. It's not gonna be. It's not bullish or bearish. That's not what we're indicating here. Price action is just, like I said, indicating how much it's moving over time, essentially, right? So over here, it doesn't matter if it's going down. If SPY is going down, at least it's going down, right? That's price action is still strong because there's a trend. Whereas, I guess here's a better way to say it. When SPY or anything is trendless, meaning it's consolidating, price action is bad. Nothing's happening, right? if there's an established trend, if there's movement happening in any direction, and it's overall there's a move actually happening, and we're not chilling in a place, price action is good, right? Whether that movement be up or whether that movement be down, you know, at least price action is good. You could also say that where there's a low volume day, where again maybe SPY, like let's take a look. Let's see if there was a day where price action is just terrible. I guess you could say for this period of the day, this period from 10:15 to about 12 before this candle happens, you could say price action was terrible. Nothing's happening. It's just sitting there. And then like later towards the end of the day, price action got a little bit better. Let's see. Over here too, yeah, on Friday on during lunchtime over here, you could see the price action was terrible. It was like watching paint dry. SPY barely moved. 20, 30 cent move. Nothing's happening. Then price action becomes good again, right? Price action becomes good again, up and down. So does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah, yeah, I think I was okay. So I was just confused. Right, what you said exactly made it all make sense. It's not bullish or bearish. The price action is just price action, isn't it?
Right. Let me see what the definition is online. Let's take a look at what the definition online says. Maybe that'll help a little bit to clarify it. I've never looked up the definition. Price action is the movement of a security's price plotted over time. Price action forms the basis for all technical analysis of stocks, commodity, or other asset chart. So essentially, yeah, there's basically saying the same thing in a much more condensed version. Just make sure that there's a move in the market and the market's not just sitting there and not doing anything, because obviously when the market's not sitting there and not doing anything, price action being terrible, what's happening to the contracts? Nothing really. They're just maybe be having theta decay depending on what contracts you have. So you want to wait till the price action becomes good to start entering contracts, because then one, there's going to be liquidity in them. Two, they're not just going to be having data eating at them. There's going to be delta taking into effect, and all your other Greeks will actually be doing something.
Back to my original question.
Yes, sir.
Um, anybody on here that does the repo thing, uh, what indicator would you use? I'd use the 9, 20, and the 30.
So, this depends on what you're doing. If you're looking for day trades, I typically use the 9 and the 20. Now, if you're looking for larger swings, I will use the 20 and the 200. Sometimes maybe even the 50. That's going to be synonymous for whatever you're using to chart. You're going to have the same indicators on whatever platform you're using to chart.
Well, unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable swinging anything like that.
Understandable, of course. Understandable. So for you, I would recommend using the 8 9, 8 or 9, preference, whatever one you like more. And then the 20. And then you can have the 200 up as well. It ends up being helpful for, I guess for here, we're looking at SPY. We can see it's near the 200 for the 15, and there's a support near it established here. You could, excuse me, help it for resistances, and use it for resistances and supports.
So is that the 200 EMA?
This green one here is a 200. Everything on my chart is EMAs. I used to use MAs. I prefer EMAs. It's just preference. They're both the same thing. Um, Retail traders essentially like to use MAs. Um, but I just prefer EMAs. Over time, when I first started, I did use MAs. I just found EMAs to be a little bit better in terms of respecting them for some tickers.
All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Next, what was your question again? Did I answer that one? It was for airlines, correct? Next, you still there? All right, next maybe dead. Anybody have anything else? Alex, Ginger.
I think right now might be good. I think I just got to study some more chart patterns and
All right.
really
So if you take a look in our education center, it hasn't been updated in a while because everything that you need is in there. We spent a lot of time back in the day making sure that everything was in there for you guys. There's a lot. There's a lot in there. So definitely take a look through. Yeah, read through it a couple times. Take some notes. I would recommend taking some notes. We do have some videos in there for your candlestick patterns. We do have some pictures that you can, some cheat sheets that you can keep up with you if you want to test out some patterns in live day-to-day basis. There's a bunch of chart breakdowns that we have done over time in which you can see how we've looked at charts back in the day. There's a pattern section where all your patterns are listed. So those patterns for the candlesticks that you were asking me, I posted some stuff in there. If you take a look back in January 25th, 2021, the knowing the green bullish candle and red bearish candle is the general thing that I was recommending earlier in this session. But the pattern below that, all those patterns, I don't use those. I just posted it there for educational purposes. The only ones out of those that I will use will be bearish engulfing, your dojis, your bullish engulfing, your hammer from. I've used bearish and bullish hammer here and there. But yeah, the other ones like Morningstar, never used it. Dragonfly Doji, never used it. Inverting Hammer, never used it. Shooting Star, never used it. Hanging Man, never used it. But yeah, yeah. If you asked me that, I wouldn't even know what those are. Now there are some.
Never used them.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't have a need to use them, Again,
Yeah.
personal preference. Yeah, I don't like using candlestick patterns. It's just not my strategy. Now, if you go look in there, there's also your chart patterns. That is something that I use all the time. I'll be using the symmetrical triangle, the ascending triangle, and ascending wedge, cup and handle, inverse head and shoulder, falling wedge. So all these things I will, always use, and these are very good indicators to know. In addition to, looking at the other indicators on the chart, there's plenty of them. I see that I've posted three or four chart patterns, and then Harmony posted a nice link to one as well. That's going to be in your pattern section. Now, in your trader resource section, there's a lot of resources there for you guys to use. If you want to take a look at how some options are going to be priced. Say you bought an ER Lotto, right? And you want to know that how much you're going to be up on your contract in the next morning if the ticker shot up 20% or went up a certain amount of percentage. You can use options calculator, profit calculator to estimate that. It's not entirely accurate, but it's pretty close, I would say so. We've got some spreadsheets in there that you guys can use to track your trades. And there's just a bunch of stuff in here. So definitely take a look through that, make use of your membership and definitely take a look through the education section. Majority of the stuff is going to be in general education, by the way.
So an H pattern. How would you identify it?
An H pattern. I don't use an H pattern many times, but let's take a look. Let me see if we can find it. Hold up. I gotta familiarize myself with an H pattern real quick because I don't use it.
I've heard a lot of talk about H patterns, but
H pattern. Let's see. Mm, are you referring to Head and Shoulders?
no, they're calling it the H pattern.
Okay, because when I search H pattern, I don't see anything called H pattern, and what
Oh,
pops up?
it's H&S, Head and
H and S.
Shoulders.
Oh, Head and Shoulders. Yeah, yeah, that's Head and Shoulders. Yeah. So Head and Shoulders. Let me see. It might
Okay,
just
there's
be.
Head and Shoulders. Maybe a segment it. There's Head and
Let
Shoulders
me pull up
USD.
a. I'm not gonna pull it up on that. Let me pull it up on a picture for you real quick, because it'll be much easier to show you that, right? And then go based off of that. So Head and Shoulders pattern. These are one of my favorites actually. I do like using the Head and Shoulders pattern. Now you will use this in addition to typically other indicators and stuff. So as you can see here, this guy has a support drawn here. Oh, that's a terrible picture. Let's see. This one's a little bit clear. This one's nice. I like this one. So obviously these guys are using your line chart. Actually, no, never mind. That's a candlestick chart. But essentially, what's that showing you? Okay, we can see that there's the neckline here, which would be considered your support, or your demand or supply zone, whatever you may want to call it, right? I would say that this is going to be your support. Now you can see that there's a shoulder forming right here, right? A shoulder. This is your head, which goes above the shoulder, right? And then comes back down, and you have your second shoulder forming here. Now, these two shoulders on either sides don't necessarily have to be the same exact size, right? The pattern is that there is a shoulder forming above that trend line, and the trend line has not broken, right? Usually, you have your head and shoulders pattern here, and the break of the head and shoulders indicates a break downwards of a bearish movement, right? Then you have your inverse of that, which is going to indicate a break upwards if it breaks that trend line of a bit bullish movement. Head and shoulders is a very simple pattern. The more I'll tell you the key for helping you identify this is trying to look for them actively while trading, right? Whenever you see someone yell out or say, "All right, there's a head and shoulders forming on this, blah blah blah," you should go and take a look and try to see if you can find it, right? That's going to be your best way. Experience is going to help you really find and identify patterns like this much faster when they're happening, right?
Okay, so what time frame is that 5
That can show up on any time frame. To be honest, any time frame. You could say this right here was a head and shoulder pattern right here. It's not the cleanest one, but it's one. It is a head and shoulders pattern right here. You've got the shoulder, you've got a head that goes above the shoulder, and you've got another shoulder here. You could say that the neckline is this ascending trend line here, this descending trend line right here, right? And then you can see that a slight bearish movement was made. It's not a clean one, but it's still a head and shoulders. It can happen on any time frame. Any time frame. Obviously, it'll be more, it'll hold more strength. It'll be a stronger indicator on your larger time frames, right? Because it'll be indicating a larger trend. Whereas if you don't use that on anything below, I would not recommend using it on the 1 minute. You can use it on the 5 minute. I don't really. I would use it on the 15, 30, and the larger time frames.
Oh, cool. So when you gonna graduate med school?
Oh, med school. Never, because I'm not going to med school. Dental school, I will graduate in 5 years, though, hopefully.
Same difference.
I wish it was the same difference, but it's not. Pretty different, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately. You wouldn't want a dentist working inside of your abdomen, now would you?
Right?
I mean, I could. I would be able to know what's in there. I mean, I did go through a lot of medical stuff, but I wouldn't be able to effectively or adequately do whatever needs to be done.
Well, I heard you was working on some metabolism drugs.
Oh, yes, for anatomy class. So I'm in a biomedical sciences master's program. So it encompasses stuff for medical school in it.
Well, good luck, dude.
Thank you, man. Not easy, yeah. It's not easy at all. But did that help answer your question on the head and shoulders pattern?
Yes, sir.
So for you, what I would recommend, Scott, is go into the education center, go into the patterns, take a look at these patterns, maybe print out the sheet, and keep it up next to you on your, when you're trading on your phone and when you have your charts up to see if you can identify some of these patterns. You can even go back and try to identify them while, the market's closed and try to see if you can see the patterns and on the larger time frames establishing, but the best way to start like familiarizing yourself with them will be to just keep looking at them. Try to experience. Try to keep doing homework and taking a look at charts and seeing if you can identify patterns. And then once you start looking at any chart, man, it'll be much easier. You don't even have to like actively look for it. You'll be able to just see it. You know.
Well, I hope it comes to that point. I want this year to kick my ass, but
Oh man, as long as you don't give up and trust me, when you put enough time into something, things do start to show or appear themselves, right? Like for example, when Ginger had sent me a chart, without even looking at the indicators and stuff, I was still able to establish what was going on simply because I've spent like maybe 6 hours average every day for the past couple of years looking at charts, you know. Um,
make you go cross-eyed.
Sorry?
Does it make you go cross-eyed?
No, but it makes me get headaches and have to take naps that last maybe 4 or 5 hours sometimes. So it's not fun. It was not fun. But yeah, the upside to it is that it all does start to make sense. And once it clicks, man, it's not something that can be undone. You know, it's something that finally starts to click for you, and it can only get better, over time. I mean, the key, I forgot who this is from, but I learned this in back in high school, is if you truly want to master something, the definition of it is 10,000 hours of experience within that one thing, to consider yourself a master at it. So, I mean, you put in the time, I mean, with anything, like I said, a lot of stock market rules apply to real life. You put in the time, you'll see the work. You'll see your work being paid off. Um, oh yeah, 100%. Anything in life. Oh wow. Oh yeah, man. Of course. I mean, especially for someone at your age, it's great to see, different people within the diversity that we have in this group and the diversity that we have within traders. I feel like there's a lot that we can learn from every single person. I mean, shit, I learn new things every day almost too. There's nothing limited. You don't want to limit yourself ever. So always, open mind and try to absorb as much as you can. I know we have a couple older folks in here who might be able to give you some other advice in terms of trading and your investment portfolios as well. I would suggest talking to Zero if you haven't already. Eternity is also another great specialist that we have. And then Harmony, myself, and 106 are going to be your younger guys. Yeah, Harmony is great as well. Harmony is honestly one of the greatest young traders that I know. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I just want to say you guys really are like amazing. I mean, the support you've got
Ah,
from the
thanks,
group,
Alex. Appreciate it, man.
the way you guys handle things, man. I've been doing business for 13 years, and I'm gonna say A plus job, bro.
Thank you, man. I mean, the way that I run this ship and this community, I mean, the fundamentals of this community were built off of a terrible trading group, to be frank. It was just terrible handle. The owner was honestly one of, and I'm not trying to badmouth someone, so I'm not gonna tell the person's name, but I mean Ginger knows because Ginger is one of the OGs that came from that group, and Harmony as well. But like it was just terrible handling from up top of the community. There was no help for people. It was just, hey, I made $1 million today by taking 0.5% on something. You guys should be able to do the same thing. Expectations from people who have very small accounts, and it would result in people blowing up their accounts, getting mad, leaving, new people coming in, and just a vicious cycle that was very unfortunate to see. And I mean, I was part of the cycle. I blew up my account twice from this guy because I realized he had no idea what he was doing. And that's when I was like, all right, you know what? I've had enough. I'm gonna try to teach myself, learn, do what I can, and then eventually this group formed.
Nice, nice.
And yeah, that's the basically the gist of Stock Sub. But anything else you guys need help with? Any other questions before we conclude the session? Any tickers you want me to look at?
I actually have to get going, so
All
yeah, I
right.
gotta quit the meeting. So hey, thanks again, though. I thought it was very informative.
No
Hey,
problem. Thank you guys for attending. I hope I was able to assist you guys or at least, be some form of help.
you always are. Have a nice night,
All
everybody.
right, guys. Take care. Have a good rest of your guys' weekend, and see you guys on Monday. No problem, guys. Take care. Yep. Bye bye.